Good morning. Welcome to my oral presentation. There are two gifts which every man of images needs to be a true creator. A certain sensitivity to life, to living things, and at the same time, the art which will enable him to capture that life in a certain specific way. I'm not talking about pure aesthetics. A confused photo just isn't capable of penetrating the viewer's memory. I've always felt that the formal structure of a photo, its composition, is just as important as the subject itself. You have to eliminate every superfluous element. You have to guide your own gaze with an iron will. You have to take the viewer's gaze and lead it to what is interesting. Brosai. This quote has become my mantra for this semester and reflects the need for me to be more disciplined in my practice. My critical research journal is a record of a more comprehensive reflection on my discipline, and ideally my work in progress portfolio should visually reflect that change and discipline. The body of work represents a monumental mind shift on so many fronts. The changes covered so many areas that even surpassed the required huge change Jesse recommended at the end of last semester. As a reminder, my primary motives are twofold. Firstly, to develop myself to become an acknowledged master photographer, and secondly, to prepare me to become an effective photography educator. The photographic practice I wish to grow is the art of documentary photography. My course objectives are to understand and assimilate every aspect of this practice and internalize the knowledge. Synthesize this with current knowledge and skills accumulated over more than 30 years. And hone and develop my practical ability in the following areas: learning marketing for and getting commissions, taking documentary photographs, and deliver on professional level of work. All with a clear purpose that will lead to financial sustainability. My final objective is to get to the point that I can clearly articulate this knowledge in a form of writing and teaching to prospective documentary photographers. This semester's lectures, the Oxfam Brief, videos and podcast interviews, and lectures of practitioners have clearly and broadly covered many of these areas of growth. The well-directed recommended essential readings and additional reading material aided in the knowledge-gathering process, setting me on an unprecedented path of discovery. I've learned so much. These discoveries were recorded. I found the CRJ a priceless development tool which I will never discard. My personal reflections became essays demonstrating how the course and material intellectually and visually surprised, delighted, challenged and enlightened me. I really had fun with it. To be able to critically discuss photography requires the assimilation of a significant amount of material, and my critical analysis abilities in this growth area has developed immensely. This will benefit my research work in the next semester. Lydia Pang's advice, try everything and keep doing what you like, has freed me from binding myself down creatively. Her and the advice of Emma Bouquet, Jem Fletcher and Anna Maria Fab all affirm the following. The commercial market will find you providing you make yourself available and have a unique style or photographic vision. Creative directors are constantly on the outlook for new talent, and yours may be precisely what they need. In terms of my work in progress and project, I have fully realized the importance of doing contextual research by engaging in the essential reading, podcasts, videos and lectures, and I made every effort to record and reflect on these in my CRJ. I've read the first 2 chapters of Susan Sontag's On Photography in depth to learn how to engage with a critical audience within my chosen genre. Sontag is fast becoming a beaconing light that will guide my ethics and approach within documentary photography. Regarding the pain of others is already waiting on my bookshelf. I read and listened to interviews with other documentary photographers such as Gary Winogrand, Brosai and David Goldblatt on how they approach and answer these critical questions. One of the aspects stressed by many of the lecturers, the materials, the books mentioned above and supported by Michael Freeman in his book, The 35mm Camera Book, reinforces the idea of selecting assignments and personal projects that will allow you to grow your practice. And you. Both Susan Mercedes and David Goldblatt took on a personal project that they found challenging to themselves and their own views. These caused a dissonance and required them to immerse themselves to really understand their subjects. My most significant learning is how they engage with their subjects. I believe that my current project is precisely that. It has become apparent that my selected project will require me to spend more time with my subjects and take many more hours to photograph. During the semester I had to find a way to limit this time and find maximum growth. Hence I decided to do small series, do some tableau work and simulate and emulate David Goldblatt's and Bresai's work to develop my skills. I made use of people I know. Here with some samples. Figure 12 and Figure 13 is both David Goldblatt's. The first taken with a Leica and the second with a medium format Hasselblad. While the technology has significantly improved over time, his strategy remains the same. He asks the subject if he can take a portrait and then photograph them going about their own way. He loves available light and a wide dynamic range and renders it with smooth tones. Susan Mercedes also embedded herself with her subjects and does both portraits using a medium format camera and candid shots with a 35mm film camera, unidentified at this stage. She, however, shows no preference for a high dynamic range and looks for high contrast opportunities. She would also add flash if the contrast gets too low. This photograph of mine was indoors and I rendered it in a low contrast way. I had some difficulty with the highlights in the cabinet and I decided to use it to lift out my subject, the green grocery shopper. I used the lines in a deliberate way to direct the gaze to the subject from the abundance, which is the field. While looking for a David Goldblatt photograph, I happened on a low contrast candid unposed photograph. I took it rapidly before engaging with the subject in a typical street photograph Winogrand style. The low contrast was caused by overcast weather. The camera shake was probably caused by my eagerness for the moment. He loved the photograph. I used my Huawei cell phone camera with a Leica lens to emulate Goldblatt or Winogrand's Leica and to make my presence less obvious. The lens is naturally less contrasty. This photograph lends itself to a low contrast David Goldblatt aesthetic. The subject just woke up and I asked him if I could take his photograph. I got to know him a bit. I love the way the background contradicts his situation, in a way a metaphor of his dreams. I learned a lot from this exercise. Bresai definitely used a singular light source with a wide throw. I used a long exposure time to get some ambient info, which he obviously didn't. He wanted a high contrast edition of the subject. We are undergoing load shedding, making it easier to get darkness similar to Paris in 1932. Here I deliberately created a high contrast with a direct flash in this Bresai attempt. In this photograph, I set my camera to collect ambient light. The flash was used to render the subject in high contrast, and I further enhanced it in Lightroom, producing an European look. Bresai's work was done with flash only. Using the same ambient light and no flash with my camera on a tripod, I captured this moment. In post-production, I saw a soul lighted aesthetic and used a desaturated color to enhance the brass look of the counter. The following two slides are from a brief personal project collaboration between Cecilia Nagel, aka Princess Maggie, and I. This body of work was influenced by the tableau work of Gregory Crutzen and the Disney photographs by Annie Leibovitz. We started with a mood or storyboard where we planned the poses and lighting. I used the yellow gel on a flash with a reflector on the floor to lift light into her face. During the shoot I was reminded of Jay Maisel's key compositional guide words, light, gesture and color. And of course Bresai's quote from the start of this presentation. Figure 26 is the final creation by Cecilia, who managed to sell 5 of these prints at Comic-Con. Figure 27 was done using a flash with a light box. Cecilia sold 3 of these final editions at Comic-Con. In a way, these photographs are part of a documentary, recording my daughter's current passion. These photographs can also be considered fine art due to the current popularity of Disney's animations. However, the main purpose of all of these exercises is to teach myself storytelling. Bresai and Ouija introduced the flash into social documentary photography. Taking the lead from Annie Leibovitz, I intend using the portable off-camera flash unit to augment my preference for available light. I now also see it as a compositional tool to augment my work in the future. I thank you for your time.